Good evening. I'd like to call to order Columbia Heights Public Schools Independent School District 13 School Board meeting of Tuesday, January 22nd, to order. If we could all rise and say the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Can you do roll call, please? Lauren?
I do that, don't I?
You do.
How would do I do that? I apologize. I don't have my training yet. Do I use last names or first
Doesn't
name?
matter. Anyway.
Okay.
However you're comfortable.
Okay. Meyer?
Here.
Landwehr?
Here.
Bardell?
Here.
Lee?
Here.
Larson?
Larkin.
What?
I'm here.
Larkin.
Here.
I so apologize. And Palmer here.
All right, thank you. Next on the agenda is the mission statement. Columbia Heights Public Schools create worlds of opportunity for every learner in partnership with supportive small-town communities by challenging all to discover their talents, unleash their potential, and develop tools for lifelong success. Next is the agenda approval adjustments, announcement, and correspondence. I'll entertain a motion for approval of the agenda.
I'll move it forward.
I got a motion from Scott, seconded by John. Discussion? Any discussion on the agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion has carried. Announcements. January 25th, Friday, no school, grading and in-service day. February 8th, Friday, no school, district in-service. February 12th, the Tuesday at 5 o'clock, is a subcommittee on policy in the superintendent's conference room. And at 7 o'clock is a regular school board meeting here in this community room. On the 18th, Monday, no school, it's President's Day. And on the 19th, Tuesday, 5:30, there will be a school board work session here in the community room, and the public is invited. Correspondence, Superintendent Kelly.
Madam Chair, members, there is one piece of correspondence. It was from the West Metro Education Program regarding a change to a bylaw. The letter was discussed at our last school board work study, and you have a copy of it, and it will be addressed in an action item tonight at this board meeting.
Thank you. Next, we're going to be moving into citizen and employee communication to the board. Citizens and employees at this time may briefly address the school board. The board will listen to the brief remarks, ask clarifying questions if desired, request that the administration will follow up. The board will not take action at this meeting on requests presented at this time. I ask that you be in mind of Minnesota State Statute of Data Privacy. Looks like we have someone here that would like to speak to the board. Jen? I mean, we have had two parents and a staff member / parent come before the board to speak tonight regarding the Vallivue Uniforms. We had two different perspectives brought forward to us and ideas and opinions. First parent is concerned and is not supportive of the uniforms due to what the cost might be, the extra clothing, how they wear and tear, different things. And one of the things of her concern were the three different schools being separated and the boundaries, if boundaries changed. So many concerns there. Next parent talked about the supporting of the uniforms and all of the changes that they've seen with the academy, and feeling it would be, she had a perspective of feeling it would be cheaper. And they also are looking at the yellow shirts would not be yellow, there would be a different color. And the fact that there's a lot of parents out there that were in support of it. The teacher that came forward took two perspectives as a teacher and as a parent of two children within the district. And she talked about parents in the district and their acceptance of the uniform. From the lens of her as a teacher, she said the unification and the positive change that she's seen with uniforms. Also, as a parent, she said it would be less conflict for her. And also that this, what we are coming forward with on the uniforms, it came from the bottom up. It was a parent group that brought it forward. And that was who had come to speak for the board. I appreciate all of you coming and talking to us tonight. We really do appreciate it, and we always need the feedback, so continue to do that. Again, thank you very much. We appreciate it. If I could ask you that we would be following up with these parents?
Certainly.
Thank you. And teacher. Sorry. All right, next on the agenda is the consent agenda. It's the minutes of December 11th, 2012 school board meeting and December 18th, 2012 school board meeting, personnel report, treasurer's report for November 2012, gifts and donations. Superintendent Kelly.
Madam Chair, members, we have multiple gifts and donations tonight, lots to be thankful for. Vallivue Elementary received a donation of $400 from Kemp's Nichols for Schools program. Rahana Tuckroll donated $300 to Vallivue Elementary. Dan Santini had donated a drum and a bell set valued at $175 to Columbia Academy. Vallivue Elementary received a donation of $257.32 from Rezu Foundation. Capella University Inspired Giving Program donated $22 to Vallivue Elementary. Vallivue is really having a night tonight, aren't you? Columbia Heights Lion Club donated $50 to North Park Elementary DARE program and $100 for hats and mittens. Scholarship American, donated $600 for a field trip to Vallivue Elementary. KDS donated $25 to Columbia Heights Public Schools, and the following donations were made to the Columbia Heights High School Scholarship Fund. Numuk Technology Solutions, $2,800, Jane Leopold, $500. And we'd like to thank all of these individuals, businesses, and organizations for supporting Columbia Heights students and programs.
I'll entertain a motion for the consent agenda.
So moved.
Got a motion by Scott. Do we hear a second?
Second.
Second from Laura. Discussion. Any discussion on the consent agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion has carried. Next on the agenda is discussion reports and information items. First is reports from members of the board. This is where the board members can give you a brief description of some of the things they've been doing for the last since we last met. We'll start with Mr. Larkin.
Okay, if I overdo this, let me know for the next meeting, but to kind of swing back with something. Last week, Wednesday, I completed my Phase 2 training for the mandatory training for school board. That evening, I had an opportunity to watch the Columbia Academy basketball team play for a little while. They looked really good. On the 17th, which would have been Thursday, I attended the MSBA conference. The gist of the morning anyway, speaker talked about building trust. It was a really good presentation. I unfortunately didn't get to see the second part on Friday, so I bought his book on Thursday. So if anybody wants to read it when I'm done, I'll let you have it. On the 17th, also was able to attend the boys swimming. On the 19th, which was Saturday, I hope I'm not stealing Mary's thunder here, but Columbia Academy had 3 8th grade teams participate in the Future City competition. It's a regional competition where kids from engineering, they start with their sim cities, they build their cities, and then they have to make physical projects for it, and then they go and they compete against schools from around a large area. The top 5 teams then go into competition for first place, and then they go to nationals. The 3 teams from Columbia Academy did not make the top 5, but they did, however, 2 of the teams won specialty awards. One of the teams won the most environmentally friendly power source, and then one of the other teams received a specialty award for engineering excellence. So it was really fun to watch the kids interacting with the different judges and the engineers and stuff that were down. The only other thing I have to add is, and Kathy, you can maybe help me with this one a little bit, but the City of Columbia Heights and the Columbia Heights School District are currently collaborating on a new project. They're going to be building a monument. If you're familiar with the City of Columbia Heights, there's a roundabout down around 39th and Jefferson. And what they're doing is in the very early stages, but it's going to be, it's called the Columbia Heights Community Heritage Tower. It's going to have 4 sides to it: diversity, education, recreation, and labor. And what the neat part about it is there's focus groups currently getting together, coming up with ideas for images and words, and then they're going to turn that over to the art departments at Columbia Academy and the high school, and they're going to work together to put together the actual images, and then that's going to be turned over to the people that are the company that's actually going to design it. So it's a pretty cool thing. Very early stages, lots of fundraising, so keep that in the back of your mind as well. But another exciting project that the city and the schools are doing together. I'm on the committee for the city, that's why I brought it up.
Thanks, John.
Oh, gosh, it's been a while since we've actually had a meeting. So I guess going way back since our last school board meeting, I attended the special meeting back in December, then the organizational meeting, which you also attended, okay, which was in the beginning of January. It's where we, voted on the new the new positions on the board and did our, and got our assignments for the upcoming year. Then the work study session, also, John was also in attendance there. That's, you do a lot definitely at the beginning of the year, so. And then, let me see, the work study session, that was last week. And then I attended both days for MSBA, the convention downtown. And the speaker was absolutely wonderful, and I bought his book too. So, so if John's is out on loan, you can come and grab one from me. And let me see, there were a couple of seminars that I went to, which I thought were really interesting. One was was about the data quality campaign, and it's actually a funded program to kind of collaborate and bring together all the statistics about where the kids go after they complete their education. And you can check out some of the, if you like a lot of numbers and a lot of statistics and stuff, you can go to the dataqualitycampaign.org, and you can actually come down to the state level. They haven't quite got it down as far as district and school level yet, but they eventually hope to even get it down to the classroom level, and to find out where the kids go, how they're successful after they leave school, which I thought was very interesting. So being able to tie together education with income potential later. And they're able to do that fairly well with the kids that actually go on to college, but they're having some trouble trying to identify where they're going with kids that may go into a trade, and they can't associate their school academics with their earning potential later, because there's no link there. But that's something they're working on. And if you like numbers and statistics and stuff, it was really, really interesting. So, and then I also attended the tour of the new kindergarten pod, which was fabulous, and John was there also. He was very busy this week. So, yeah. Some great things happening over there. I heard we're gonna have an open house at some point, where the actual public at large is gonna be able to come in and see some of the great stuff that's going on. It's really been a fun month. Yeah.
Busy.
Thank you.
Thank you. Lori?
Well, I guess I've had an opportunity to meet with Superintendent Kelly and spend some time with her and get some of my questions answered and just some information. I completed my Phase 1 and Phase 2 orientation training, similar as everyone else as far as attending the organizational meeting, the MSBA Leadership Conference last week. A couple of the workshops that I went to, one was on the flipped classroom, flipped learning. That was put on by the Stillwater School District. It was really interesting on, in 2 years, how much they've been able to accomplish and how far they've gotten with that program, and the results that their parents and students are achieving already. And another workshop on proven strategies for an effective school board. Some good information on there that they've gotten from just different data from school boards, and just understanding some of the things that make an effective school board, having to do with clear and consistent expectations and communications, both with the school board and superintendents, and some of the links between the effectiveness of a board and the training that board's members attend. That, the more training the board members attend, the more effective the board tends to be as a whole. And then the presentation on the shift in school board funding was by the finance director, was very interesting. So, great, I think that's it.
Thank you. Ted?
I was also at the work session and toured the Highland Edition, and it was a great tour. Thank you, Principal DeWitt, for that. Also attended had a coffee with Member Larkin, and thank you for that. Get to know you better and spend some time together, and trying to arrange one with Chair Lee.
Sorry. It's been been busy, sorry.
Yeah. And also attended the MSBA Leadership Conference. I was so impressed with the speaker. I wrote down the 8 pillars of building trust, and I'd like to read them real quick here. Consistency, clarity, compassion, character, contribution, competency, connection, and commitment. So all C's, very easy to remember and very powerful. I was also at the, attended the roundtables at the leadership conference. Those are just short 20-minute sessions, but did a roundtable on data analysis using all the data that's being collected by the state to better our schools and to use that information in partnership. So that's very powerful. Email marketing, using email constant contact to promote our schools and to also reach out to the public and keep everybody informed. That's also very powerful. Went to a roundtable on the Elementary and Secondary Education Act waiver, the multiple measures rating system that the state has adopted to give our schools, a report card and to measure how the schools are doing. And a lot of information is on the Minnesota Department of Education website. So it's a wealth of information if you haven't looked at it. Went to the school financing presentation by Tom Melcher, very informative about all the proposals that are on the board for state funding and how to adequately fund schools. Went to one on parent-family school community partnerships put on by Parents United for Public Schools. That's also a wealth of information and very powerful when parents and schools work together in communities. And then went to a great session by the Aiken School District on how to align the organization, the school district organization, to the vision and mission of the district, and how to really bring that vision and mission all the way down to the lowest level and make sure that it's first and foremost in whatever's done in the district. And they've got a great system. And then I went to one on self-insured health plans, which might be a great thing for us to look into. It's a great way for districts to save money by insuring themselves instead of buying expensive insurance through other sources. And then also a chair session on the statutory teacher and principal evaluation system that's in the statutes now that we're going to have to adopt, and all school districts will have to adopt. So also attended Lions meetings and talked to constituents, and I think that was it.
Scott?
Hi.
Hi.
I'm gonna spend my time talking about AMSD legislative session preview on January 11th. I'm gonna do my best to be able to read my notes, but our own Kathy Kelly was a featured speaker at this, and I'll say a couple of words about that. I won't steal too much of what you said because you probably want to talk about it, but in any event, this is an annual thing at AMSD. Like I said, it's a legislative session preview. There were approximately 20 state legislators there. AMSD talked about their platform and how this year their platform includes the language from the Minnesota Constitution, which I don't have handy here, but guarantees a fair and public education. Our own Kathy Kelly was one of the featured speakers, and Kathy's discussion and talk was about funding education, primarily special ed, and the importance of all-day kindergarten, that it should be fully funded. So, all right. The next topic was about the integration revenue and the fact that if nothing's done, it's going to end in fiscal year 14. And there was a revenue replacement task force, and there's lots of pages of recommendations. 4 main thrusts. I won't go into them this evening, but they're on the Minnesota Department of Ed website. What I will say is their fiscal principles are they're going to cap the level at what it is currently right now, $100 million is a recommendation, with 30% funded through a local level, and the other criteria is spend at least 80% of the revenue on students. So therefore, no more than 20% on overhead. With a focus they talked about perhaps a focus on Avid, and currently 31 districts in the state are using Avid. So we'll see what happens, you know, in the budget, which the governor presented the budget, proposed budget today. We also saw a compelling video about the importance of mental health services in schools. I wish I would have taken more notes on it, but I think I was just riveted to the video and the importance, again, of the mental health of our children in schools. Member Landwehr mentioned teacher and principal evaluations. We had a talk by another superintendent about these evaluations coming up. The principals, there would be a supervisor evaluation, a stakeholder feedback, and then school performance measures. It's weighted 35%. Teachers would be teacher practice, rated on teacher practice, student engagement, student learning and development, again weighted 35%. There aren't any measures yet in place. That's what folks at MDE and the state are working on. It was estimated, though, to implement both of these at $260 per student, or a little over $200 million statewide. Implement that. And let's see, there was a Minnesota Department of Education presentation. The highlights were they have a 7-point plan, and they just wanted to give highlights. The 7-point plan from Minnesota Department of Ed is funding education for the future, better early childhood education, raise the bar, close the gap, meaning the achievement gap. Reading well by 3rd grade, studies have shown that if kids are reading well by 3rd grade, they're gonna have a much greater chance of succeeding in academics and professional life. Support teaching for better schools, which involves the teacher and principal evaluations, how the state looks at it, and a better Department of Education, reduce special education paperwork, reduce cost, resolution time, et cetera, et cetera. There was also a legislative panel, and basically they all agreed that the focus ought to be on educational outcomes and spend our money on best value. And pretty much, I think the panel agreed that early childhood programs, all-day kindergarten, are probably the best value of where the education dollars can go. So we'll keep our fingers crossed and see what happens in the state legislature. The rest of the talk was based upon funding of the schools and the budget and things like that, and I won't go into that because the governor did release a proposed budget today, which goes in detail about what what the governor is proposing that the state spend on education. So that was out in the Star Tribune today. So thank you very much.
Thanks. Obviously, it's been a busy couple of weeks for everybody. I guess I've been at the work session, also the organizational meeting. I also attended the West Metro Education Program organizational meeting and their regular board meeting. I was elected onto their executive and personnel committee once again this year because they've got a lot of things going on in that district. They also talked again about allocations to the fair schools and how they're going to be looking at them. And the way they were looking at them weren't beneficial to Columbia Heights kids. So we did ask the superintendent to bring at least 2 to 3 scenarios forward that could best help kids from our district and Minneapolis, whereas they weren't really leaning towards those kids. So that's going to be coming up at the next meeting, which will bring some healthy conversation, I'm sure. I also went to the Minnesota the leadership conference, which was very well attended from people all around the state. They are in higher attendance on their ending keynote than they have been in years. They had 95 seminars that they gave to board members across the state, and not one was repeated. So that's high praise there. I also attended the luncheon with some of my fellow board members, and I wanted to share with the community that Columbia Heights School Board from last year was recognized in recognition of the school board and its support and commitment to educational excellence through participation in Minnesota School Boards Association in-service programs, Columbia Heights 2013 District Award of Distinction. Columbia Heights School Board was honored because of their excellence from last year and the things that they've achieved. So hats off to the school board for doing a lot of good things in the community. I also want to tell you, I attended the keynote speaker, and he did speak on trust. And I think trust is really key in a school board being effective. And he really hit on some key points, and I'm glad that Ted brought out all of the pillars. Couple of the things that I pulled out of there were the fact that is how do you develop that and where do you go from there. And I didn't buy the book, so I'm going to be borrowing it from one of them. But
I bought the book too.
okay,
Madam Chair.
well, you're good. I'll get it somewhere. But it was actually very eye-opening and very very fun to go to, and a lot of fun things to hear. So even if you're out there, get that book because it's called The Trust Edge, and it's all about basic trust in everything. I also want to talk about trust, and after that meeting, I was humbled because I threw my hat in the ring to sit on the State Board of Education that day. And after our luncheon, as I walked into the room, all of my team players were sitting there to support me. And I want to say thank you to each and every one of you for being there for me. I really do appreciate it. It said a lot to me. It really touched me, and I get emotional thinking about it because there were two other districts sitting there, and there were only two people there. There was another person that was running who ran against me. I will tell you, I was elected to the Minnesota School Board Association's State School Board, so I am representing the community, also representing Anoka, Hennepin, St. Francis, St. Anthony, Spring Lake Park, Hilltop, and Fridley. So I'm honored to do that, and I want to thank you, my board members, again for being so supportive. Laura and Scott were standing there with me when I found out the news. So I will be attending those. The nice thing about those, there's not a lot of meetings. There are 8 meetings a year. They're not quite like our meetings. They're very different. I already attended the first one, which they talked and they overviewed what was going on and what the needs are across the state of Minnesota for board members to be able to become highly effective, like this board is. So they talked a lot about that, and I'll be able to have input and be able to go back to this board and boards across this District 5 and get their input, and that's what I plan to do. We do a lot of collaboration here in Columbia Heights, and I really truly believe in that, and I'm going to be doing a lot of that with other fellow board members from those districts and collaborating and bringing all of the wonderful things out. St. Francis has already actually asked if they could tour Columbia Heights schools because they've heard how great they are. So thank you again for that. The other thing is I also was in the walkthrough over at Highland. What a great, turned around to Bill and I said, wasn't it just the other day we broke ground? It just moves so fast and it looks so beautiful. Please take your time to go over there and check it out. It was really a lot of fun to go and see those things. Fun thing I was at is a basketball game this last Friday where we played North Branch and we won. Go Heights! But what was really fun is walking out in the hall and looking over at the concession stand, and who did I see but Mr. Bill Straff. He's always coming back and helping the schools. He's a wonderful asset to have. Thanks, Bill, for coming back. The kids love it when you're there. And then I met briefly with you, and I also had a very nice meeting with Lori. So I'll turn it over to you.
And I have one more thing. Our own member Palmer was also recognized at the luncheon for excellence in training for school board members. So I want to
got
point
two.
that out. Though. She got two.
Two.
Yep.
Thank you. Yes?
Well, the superintendent's report tonight is a little lengthy as well because there's been a lot going on. I want to go back to something that Member Larkin said about the Heritage Tower. And the school district is so pleased to be collaborating with the city and the community on that project. We've had 2 internal meetings with the city and the administration regarding the momentous task of actually bringing it from focus group to design stage before it can be sandblasted onto the tower. And I want to thank in advance all of the 612 art teachers, visual art teachers that will be doing that, and Principal Busman, who will be leading the, the initiative, and the Heighten the Arts Committee. It will be something that we'll look back in many years, and students will be able to have real visual art that they've produced in the community. And that's not an opportunity that students get every day. And so we're really thankful to the city, and I believe that there will be press releases going out on that as well. So it'll be a fun project and a significant one, I think, for the community. Continuing on, the K-12 administration met with me for a half day for the purposes of teacher evaluation. That was our second round of teacher evaluations. And we'll have another meeting, will be held early in March for the same purpose. Many of you at the table have alluded to that we have to have a teacher evaluation system available and in place by school year 2014. And Principal DeWitt, Teacher Diane Scully, Director Bennett, and myself met formally with the 710 Teachers Union Executive Committee to discuss the teacher evaluation task forces and the charges. And that is moving forward. The same people, DeWitt and Scully, Bennett, and myself will be going to additional trainings, but we feel like between the union and management that we have a process in place, and we're selecting our members to be a part of that. When we're hoping it's going to be very collaborative. VH1 Save the Music Foundation was in town, and for those of you that have met auditors from VH1, know that we received all of our band instruments in the elementaries from VH1 Save the Music, and they come out to do an annual audit. So Chiho was out, for those of you that remember her, and she did a site visit at each of the buildings. She met with the principal. She also met with Principal Busman and Director Burkus, and then we had a conversation as well. And the focus of the topics were really on the program development, the growth, the student participation, and fidelity to the staffing ratios. And she wanted to thank the board for maintaining their vigilance, because as she always says, if you don't maintain your staffing ratios, they will take the instruments back. So she's very firm in that one area, yes. The superintendent's technology cohort met again after school for a work session on creating compelling learning environments, and I want to thank both Principals Sosik and Director Hennekens for leading that particular facet of the training. Member Bardell has gone through the AMSD legislative preview very well. I was honored to represent Columbia Heights Public Schools and put a perspective from a small district that's urban on the table for the legislators to see. And he was, as he said, I spoke on special education cross-subsidy and its impact on the general fund and the importance of early learning, especially all-day, everyday kindergarten. I want to thank Director Holmgren and Scott Bardell for attending that day and settling me down before the speech. And I'm just going to be honest about that. And then a special thank you to Senator Barb Goodwin and Representative Carolyn Lane and Representative Connie Bernardi, for all of them who came. And in addition to that, two of the three, Goodwin and Lane, have met with me already for coffee and conversation, and Connie Bernardi is setting up an appointment as well. So we talked individually with them about the impact of some of those financial things, and they would like, once the budgets are out from the governor and then from the legislative bodies, to come in and fill us in on some of that, as they generally do. So that would be something that you can think about when you'd like to have them in. I attended I too did a little learning this last week. And I attended a superintendent strategy summit last week, which I have to say was one of the best things I have done as a superintendent, and possibly one of the best staff development trainings I've taken as a professional. It was run by Harvard. It was around leadership. And they ran the classes like they do at Harvard, and a few of you that have studied at Harvard know how intense that is. I'm looking at Director Burkus because he had that opportunity a few summers ago. And this was not at Harvard, but they gave us homework before we got there, and we had to present case studies. We also had to read a book on leadership, and that was phenomenal. And then they gave us homework after. And by May, we each have to have our own plans presented on what we're going to follow up from the leadership conference. And one area that was of particular interest to me besides leadership and team building was on effectuating economies in the area of special education based on data-driven practice. And so we'll be hearing more about that in the future. I want to thank each and every one of you that have had multiple or individual meetings with me in the last few weeks, and that's all I have.
Great. Thank you. It's been a busy couple of weeks. Next on the agenda is 4-star parent aware rating. Christine Stunkel, Director of Community Education, and Karen Kramer, Early Childhood Coordinator. Welcome.
Thank you, Chair Lee, members of the school board, Superintendent Kelly. This evening we are very pleased, Early Childhood Coordinator Karen Kramer and myself, to announce that the Columbia Heights Public School Early Childhood Pre-K program has received the 4-star Parent Aware rating. That is the highest rating that can be awarded to a pre-K program. And this program, this 4-star rating is both for our overall program and also for each of our sites at North Park, at Highland, and here at the Family Center. It is, our programs are noted on the parentawarerating.org website, and this rating is valid for 2 years. I'm going to allow Karen to describe what this rating means for our community and for our district.
Thank you. Parent Aware is a rating tool for high quality early education and care, and you can receive 1 through 4 stars. It's led by the Department of Human Services in coordination with the Minnesota Department of Education. And it measures best practices that are identified by research that help children succeed in kindergarten and beyond. School district programs and early childhood care programs may apply for this accreditation at this point in time, and so we did. It requires our teachers to have 8 hours of very specific curriculum training and 8 hours of very specific assessment training. Kind of the caveat to the whole thing, I think, is if in the future there would be funding available, they'll be looking at the 4-star programs, and they will be getting the funding before programs that haven't achieved that rating. And I think it's truly a credit to our teachers, who are top-notch and who have worked very hard to achieve these things for our Columbia Heights pre-K programs. And we're just thrilled to have it, and I can't say enough about it.
I'd like to recognize that Coordinator Kramer put a lot of work into this, as did all of our early childhood teachers and staff, and I'd like to give a shout out to them. We've always known that our early childhood programs have been excellent. It's very nice to have an objective body join us in that recognition. I'd like to thank the board and Superintendent Kelly for the support that you have all shown for our early childhood programs, as I like to say, for our youngest scholars in the district. Do you have any questions?
I just want to say it's great news because early childhood is as remember what Bardell was saying, is so important. The state is realizing that to get students ready for kindergarten and so they can learn is key. So congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else?
Well done.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, yeah.
Very nice. Thank you. Strategic Roadmap F, Fiscally Responsible. Bill Holmgren, Director of Finance and Operations.
As Bill is getting ready, I would just like to put in the background for new board members that we rotate through each of the strategic areas once a year at the board level. Last year, we did it, and we were tweaking the process. This year is what we want to say is we're going live, that what you will see a bill present tonight will also be put into the data dashboard, and that that we're developing for the board will also go on the website, and we will continue the metrics into the future so the community can look how we're doing.
Thank you.
one of the pillars of trust.
There you go.
Transparency.
Madam Chair, Directors of the School Board, Superintendent Kathy Kelly. If you remember, approximately 2 years ago, now we did we worked on a strategic plan, and we've put together vision cards of really measuring how our plan is working. And like Superintendent Kelly just said, I'm kind of the first one through, kind of the first one where we get the second year and we can see some results and some changes from one year to the other. I want to just quickly do a little review on the strategic plan itself. There's a statement. You always recite this at the beginning of the meeting. It's working very well for us, I think, at this point. Our core values of community, excellence, collaboration, integrity, respect, courage, and innovation. And then our vision. Because I don't want to read the whole thing because it just kind of gets repetitive. But, you know, the academic excellence and our image of pride. I think it's very well planned that the board has come up with here at the end. And if you remember now, when we talk about the strategic directions, really my piece of it is the last one, remaining fiscally responsible. That's section F. And that's what I'll go into detail now and show you the changes from one year to the next. Now, if you remember last year, you'll see that the first two columns there are unrestricted fund balance. Actually, let me back up for a second. In your packet, I did include, it's on page 37 of your packet, so you can see that what we're trying to measure here. But our unrestricted fund balance for 2011 was 15.4%. That was a level 5. This year, it has fallen slightly to 14.9, but it's still a level 5. Our school board policy looks at that unrestricted fund balance to run between 6 and 10%, and you can see that we're well above that policy. So at this point, we're still at a level 5. Annual variation of the budget. Actually, this is one thing that I was really interested in. You'll see that back in 2011, we had a variance of 3.7%, which, at least in my eyes, was not acceptable. We need to be a lot closer when we're doing our budgeting. You see that now for fiscal 2012, we're within 0.8%. So I'm very happy with that. And that it moves us from level 1 to level 5. So I'm pretty proud we moved that. Actually, in 1 year, we moved it that far. Great. Our budget alignment. This again, this fell slightly, but we're still in the level 5. We want that the percentage to be at 65% or better. Those are dollars going directly into the classroom. Capital timeline. Our timelines were all right on. In 2011, our timeline was 100%. We hit exactly. Now, if you remember, this summer we had a project over at Columbia Academy, and we did have that fall a little bit short when we talk about timeline. So that has dropped to 90%, but we're still at level 5. We did finish that up, but it was a couple weeks late. Our capital budgeting, same thing. We were right on in 2011. We did fall slightly. We had one project go a little bit over budget over the summer, but we're still at level 5. F6 and F8, this is information that we don't have yet. This is totally dependent on some surveys that we're sending out that are actually going out later this spring, so we'll have some baseline information. For this point in time, I still don't have that, so that's when you'll see the NA both on number 6 and number 8. Now, our operating levy has not changed. Right now, our operating levy is at $879 per pupil. You'll see that the median for our area is $992, so that puts us a little under half, so that we're still at a level 2. So that has remained the same also. So going forward, to look at our scoring, you see that we have our weightings for each of the line items and our score, and then of course our weighted score. When we break this down to a total score, taking out those two sections right now that we aren't scoring because we don't have the information, that gives us a maximum score that we could have gotten this area for. Back in 2011, our score was 2.95, and this year now it's moved to 3.55. So I feel pretty good that we made definitely a move in the right direction. It's actually a 20% increase on our score from 11 to 12. Is there any questions?
How are you gonna follow it up next year? You jump up 20%, you're only gonna move it like 2%, and it's gonna be huge, but it's not gonna look very big.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I feel very good about our score, and you're right, we're getting to the point where it's
It's
pretty high, so to make it move is gonna be difficult to do, but we will continue to work.
I have confidence.
Yeah, thank you. Okay,
Nice job.
thank you.
Thanks, Bill. It was great. Congratulations again. You always do a good job. All right, next is Building Vision Card, Valley View Elementary. Dwayne Burkus, Director of Teaching and Learning, Willie Fort, Valley View Principal. Am I on the wrong one? No, you're right where you need to be.
Chairperson Lee, Superintendent Kelly, members of the board, pleased to have Dean Tuckrell here with Principal Fort to help show you some of the information that we have tonight. I get the pleasure of introducing this team. I think when you enter the Valley View doors and you go, every one of our building has a different culture, a different feel to it. You walk into Valley View and the feel for me always is one of community, one of kids that are happy to be there and teachers that are happy to be working with them and with each other. It's a warm school. It's a place that is very serious, though, about the business of student achievement, but doing that in a way that is right for kids. And so I'm really excited tonight to be able to introduce them just a few days after they were notified that they are a celebration school in the state of Minnesota. That notification came to Principal Fort and Superintendent Kelly last week, and it was a big day for us. It's big news. Not many schools get that in the total state, number of schools in our state. There are a few that do. Principal Fort will tell you some of the data that helped them be selected, but I think probably one of the things I'm most proud of that they are doing is really they're an example of closing the achievement gap. The work that they've done down there, hard work that they've done down there, I think needs to be recognized, and I'm really pleased that it was by the state. So congratulations to them, and I'm going to hand it over to them to just talk a little bit about their school and where they're at.
Okay. Thank you, Director Burkus. Good evening, Board Chair Lee, Directors, Superintendent Kelly. This is a scaled-down version of the information you received in your board packet. I would note on the front page of the presentation there's a picture of Valley View third graders in a fire prevention class from last year. That's the far right-hand picture. This class is offered annually to all of our K through third graders by the Columbia Heights Fire Department. All K through third graders will go directly to the fire station this year for their class. You can reference detailed information and explanations at each numbered letter in the boxes on the far left side. I'm not sure if you're referencing your board packet or not, but as we go through, there's going to be some letters, and then there's a extended explanation is right under each one of those numbered letters. We'll pause a bit between each slide in case you have any questions. First slide is our enrollment for the past 4 years. Our enrollment seems to increase as the school year progresses. We are currently at 502 students. Okay. Our demographics. Pretty balanced percentage among the top 3 largest ethnic groups: Hispanic, Black, and white, and then 7% for Asian students and 2% for American Indian students. Demographics: 76% of our students receive free and or reduced breakfast and lunches, and 8% receive are at reduced rates. That's a total of 84%, which is up 5% from last year. 11.2% of our students are special education students. 43.2% of our students are EL students. That's an increase of 6% since last year. What you see there are MCA scores, reading and math for 3rd through 5th graders from last year, and our science scores for our 5th graders on the far right there. Okay. You just saw the strategic roadmap. We use the strategic directions as a guide for both long-term and short-term goal setting for our school. Okay. Our teachers participate on 5 committees that make up the core of our school infrastructure. They provide some professional development for our staff and facilitate many of our staff meetings. Committee responsibilities are listed in the far right-hand column. A1 through 4, A1, 2, and 4, student achievement and instruction are the main focal points of our school. Emphasis is placed on quality instruction in all curricular areas. Teachers meet collaboratively in PLCs and grade level teams to plan differentiated lessons to meet the needs of all students. Grade level standards are addressed when planning lessons. We feel we do this well. A7, student assessment data is reviewed regularly so teachers are aware of the academic status of each student. Teachers use multi-tiered interventions for students who are placed in flexible groups for their instruction. A11 and 12. Currently, we have 330 students in our Encore program for 2nd semester. We had a similar enrollment during our 1st semester. Encore is offered to 1st through 5th graders. And A13. Parent participation for conferences, carnival, and the school picnic are high. We would like to see higher attendance and participation in other school events. We have not done a survey to answer this question as of yet. We do plan on formulating a survey to our parents for our remaining events. The questions that we're going to include on there that we feel we can use for our data for not only ourselves but for district data. I feel that Columbia Heights Public Schools are safe, and that'll be a yes or no question. I am satisfied with the academic support in Columbia Heights Public Schools, that's a yes or no. And I feel welcomed in Columbia Heights Public Schools, that's a yes or no question. So for our picnic, which we usually get, our next event is Carnival, and then our picnic, we get large turnouts for that. We will, in addition to the questions that we ask about the picnic and Carnival, we'll include those 3 questions. B1 through 4. 2nd through 5th graders take the MAP test in math and reading at least twice yearly. All students kindergarten through 5th grade are administered CBMs 3 times yearly in reading. Students are grouped in tiers 1 through 3 for instruction during their intervention time. All children receive some whole group instruction at their grade level. B2, reading growth is moderate. We have made minimal gains over the last 3 years of our MCA testing. We scored ourselves in the moderate to high range in these 4 categories. Okay. B5 through 8. Intervention time, guided reading groups, and tiered instruction are delivered during the day so students get additional instruction and practice specifically at their grade level. B14 and 15, all behavior data has dramatically improved. There is a discrepancy in the number of out-of-class referrals for some student groups, specifically our Black students. We have considerable room for improvement in that area. Okay, those are our committees there. Committees had up to 3 celebrations that were noted in your board packet. For the sake of time, I just picked 1 celebration event and 1 initiative per committee to highlight tonight. Committee celebrations, we have academic, as Director Burkus mentioned about our 97th percentile for closing the achievement gap. The discrepancy between the academic achievement of our lowest performing ethnic group and white students has been significantly decreased. Communications, we reference 2 of the Vision 2015 goals: an image of pride which attracts and retains students and families, And second, best practices and resource management. We do school well as our guiding principles. We have increased our PR, public relation activities, in order to accomplish these goals. Equity. We held our first African American family night where 79 people attended. Responsive classroom, we have created structured recess for both outdoor and indoor activities. And technology, each grade level has created their own website. Again, as Director Burkus mentioned, we're a celebration school. We're notified last Friday. There are 5 levels of proficiency. Reward is the top level, reward schools. Celebration eligible is the next level, so that's the second highest, and so we are officially a celebration school, which again is the second highest. There are continuous improvement schools, focus schools, and priority schools. We appreciate this recognition and will continue to do our best for all Valley View students. These are our initiatives, our goals. We want to continue to close the achievement gap, particularly in reading. Communications Committee, we will advertise and promote the things we do well and attempt to grow our enrollment. Our goal is to keep more of the students who live in our community. Equity, build positive relationships with all of our families and realize strong academic achievement for each student. Responsive classroom, keep students in class and in school so they learn as much as possible. Technology, we want to use technology in order to improve our instruction and to maximize student learning. Okay. SMART goals for literacy, we expect a 5% increase in CBM proficiency at the Tier 1, which is grade level. We expect a 2% increase in MCA reading. Okay. Math. We expect 40% of our kindergartners to meet their target areas, goals, scores. Teachers felt that currently about 20% of their students meet their target. We expect a 3% increase in math tests for 1st through 5th graders. And we expect a 2% increase in MCA math proficiency for 3rd through 5th graders. Science, a 7% increase for 5th graders is our goal in science. And behavior, we want to decrease our total referrals by 10% and referrals of our African American students by 15%. One of the classes in our Encore program is the Blue and Gold News. We thought you would like to see some segments from their production. There is a group of 16 to 20 3rd through 5th grade students who work with our MRC tutor, physical education teacher, and our instructional technology specialists. So we're going to show you a couple of segments from their Blue and Gold News.
Hi, this is Simam Hector Imani, and we are going to tell about Vallivue News. Our gym teacher, Mrs. O, found a company to donate $50 to Vallivue and helmets. This spring, we are going to ride the bikes outside in gym class.
On December 6th, there was an Elder Wisdom celebration in the gym. The 4th grade songs 3 songs about their life while they were growing up. The elders were Mr. Georgie, Mr. Guerrero, and Mrs. Shirley. The songs were written by Mr. Long and Mr. Galloway.
And that was Vallivue News for December. Thank you for watching Blue and Gold News.
Hi, I'm Renee. Ben. And welcome to Super Fun. And we will be talking about timber wolves. Timber wolves live in packs. Their coats are in many different colors. In the winter, their fur grows long. Their fur grows longer to keep warm. People are deciding to have a wolf hunt, and many wolves could die of it. Now we will be talking about snow. The biggest snowflake is 17 inches and 8 inches thick. Did you know that 1 septillion ice crystals makes snow fall from the sky? Also, it takes 1 million droplets to make 1 snowflake. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching Blue and Gold News.
One last one.
Hallway if you see her.
Bye.
Hallway.
Okay. All right. Well, that's 2 of our segments, and so, yeah, just wanted to show you that. So it's part of our Encore program.
Bye.
So they do some great things in Encore, and so any questions on the presentation at all? Or
Questions?
that you have?
Anybody have anything? I don't know, I thought it was great, and congratulations. You guys have worked very, very hard for the celebration, and you're doing wonderful things, and you can just see it by Blue and Gold News. Yeah, go ahead, Kathy.
I just wanted to, first of all, officially thank, as the superintendent, Valley View. I said this at the beginning of the meeting, that I'll be down personally to chat with the staff and to congratulate the students for working so hard. People talk about closing an achievement gap. We've actually done it. It's the collective we, because it is Valley View, it's teaching and learning, it's a lot of volunteers, it's a lot of after school, it's a lot of concentration and focus, and I want to thank everybody that's had a part in that. The second thing that I would like to thank Valley View for is being the first to model our strategic directions at the building level. Because one of the things we said we were going to start this year, rather than our continuous improvement plans, was actually taking the format so that we could have that through line throughout the entire organization and weave the strategic plan, put the metrics in addition, create the SMART goals, and you've modeled that very nicely. Tonight I want to thank you. Then I want to thank Director Burkus as well, because I know that when we were bringing this together, it was hard to figure out how we were going to have uniformity and yet have uniqueness between and among the schools. And you can see from Blue and Gold News to celebratory events that Valley View is working above and beyond. So thank you very, very much. How about a round of applause for Valley View?
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
All right, thank you. Next, board policy, first reading. I'll turn it over to Scott.
Sure. First reading of the following policies. These policies will be placed on the website for comment, and if anyone has any comments, please contact the school board via email or the superintendent. The policies are 604 instructional curriculum, 607 organization of grade levels, 609 religion, 610 field trips, 611 homeschooling, 702 accounting, 712 video surveillance other than on buses, 713 student activity and accounting, and these policies will appear on a future agenda for approval.
All right, thank you. We're going to be moving into our action items. Pay equity report, Lindsay Bennett, Director of Human Resources, and Rebecca Edberg, Springsteen Incorporated. Springsteen. Music. I know I am.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Superintendent Kelly. It's my pleasure to be here tonight to present the pay equity report. And along with me is Rebecca Edberg from Springstead Incorporated. We've worked with Springstead on a lot of projects, most recently the pay equity report, and it's been my pleasure to work with them and continue to work with them too. So background on pay equity, public institutions are required to report the salary information on their employees to ensure that the institution is not discriminating against female employees in their compensation practices. The district must submit this report every 3 years, and the report has to be submitted by January 31st of this year. We submitted our last report in 2010. And again, the district worked with Springstead on this report. There are 4 tests for compliance, and I'll go through each of the tests. And then if there's any questions, I'll probably pass it on to Rebecca, who knows more about the specifics on how they run the numbers. So the first one is the district will pass this test. It's the completeness and accuracy test, as long as we submit the report by January 31st. And once it's board approved, Springstead will submit it electronically for us. Test 2 is the statistical analysis test. And to pass this test, the district must have 6 or more male classes and at least 1 class with an established salary range, or 4 or 5 male classes with an underpayment ratio of 80% or more. And I think, Rebecca, if I explain this right, it's if you have the same points from when we point out the job descriptions, it's equal pay for equal points. It's kind of the easy way to remember it. And the district's underpayment ratio is well above the established standards, so therefore we will pass this component of the test. The third test is the salary range test, and this just measures whether male classes are reaching the top of their salary schedule faster than female classes. And at this time, we are below the standards, so we wouldn't pass this component of the test. And what it looks at, to kind of put just real brief, is a lot of our teaching positions, it takes 17 years to reach max, because that's how many steps are in the salary schedule. And our male-dominated classes, which are mostly custodial, it takes 5 years to reach the max. So it's an average number that they look at the two. So when we have a lot of female-dominated teaching positions, it's putting us not at the number that we need to have for the state. So we still, I'll get to that point, the next one is the exceptional service test, and that analyzes whether or not there's a larger percentage of male classes receiving longevity compared to female classes, and we will pass this component of the test. So the district is in compliance with 3 of the 4 tests that we have to submit to the state. We are currently out of compliance with the salary range test, and district administration will continue to work on this test along with Springstead. Even though we're not in compliance with one of the tests, we still need to submit the report by January 31st. If we don't submit the report, then we are out of compliance, and we don't even get a chance to correct it. We're just out of luck and we'll be fined. So this way, they give you an opportunity. We submit the report. They'll notify us, which I've been told could take probably till next fall even, to let us know that we're out of compliance. And then at that time, I will work specifically with Springstead to get us back into compliance and figure out a way of how to do that. So we do have 2 options. We can submit a new report or request a reconsideration of a report once we get that notification. So that's it. So I'm here tonight to ask the board to approve the pay equity report as is. Once we get the notice of non-compliance for that one step, we'll work with Springstead on our options.
I'll entertain a motion on the floor.
So, second.
Motion by Ted, seconded by Scott. Now discussion.
Question. You explained that we are out of compliance on the one schedule because it seemed to me they're comparing so-called apples to oranges basically on the positions. Is that just the way the test is given, or is there any explanation? Because it seems like common sense to me, but.
The only thing that they're comparing is the male classes to the female classes. So they take one position, and if it's male dominated, they look at how many years it takes to get from the minimum to the maximum. If it's female dominated, they look at the same thing and compare the 2. There's no explanation that goes with that, considering the dynamics of the organization or the specific subsets of classes involved. That's what our request for reconsideration would take place when we get that notice that we do not comply. We would provide that explanation to the state.
I would have to believe that a lot of schools are going to have the same issues. So.
You are correct in assuming that you're not the only one in that situation at this time.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Are there any consequences for, or timelines for correcting that issue?
The major fines involved are if you do not pass to file the report by the 31st of January. Usually if a district or a specific entity takes corrective measures, any fines involved would be waived because you're taking proactive measures to correct the situation. The whole purpose behind this is to figure out where there are non-compliance issues to correct it for the next time that you file. And that's what we'll work with you on, is to straighten out some of those areas.
Further questions? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is uniforms for Valley View Elementary resolution. It will be Willie Fort, Valley View principal, Tara Tuckrow, she's the Valley View dean.
That, is this the white paper that, that I present? Okay. So, I'm asking the school board to approve, the wearing of school uniforms at Valley View starting the, 2013-2014 school year.
I'll entertain a motion on the floor.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Scott, seconded by Laura. Discussion.
Gonna read the resolution.
Oh, I gotta read the resolution, sorry. Resolution, well, we haven't approved, so it's discussion right now. Yeah, yeah. Discussion. Ted?
I think I just want to point out that, that there are options for parents who don't want, for this, where this is an issue for them, that they can move to other schools, but hopefully they won't, and hopefully it'll be a plus for Valley View, and that's what I'm hearing. So there is flexibility in the district, correct? Superintendent Kelly?
Yes.
Further discussion, Laura?
I think it's actually going to be a draw for some parents, so I think it's all going to work itself out. I'm really excited to see the parents just really take charge and really get the ball rolling on all of this. So.
Is this something I could,
Go ahead.
discuss as well? Okay. So we did have our kindergarten night, and this is my third kindergarten night. We had similar numbers as the previous years, and one of the things that I did mention was that there was a proposal for wearing uniforms for the next school year. So that was part of my presentation to parents. I think we had 32 parents that enrolled right on the spot last year during our registration. This year we're at 35. It didn't seem to be an issue for parents that were there that night. So I think just what I wanted to do and have tried to do is to be very open about the process and inviting to all constituents as far as the open meetings that we've had and the opportunity to have discussions. And as you have seen, the data supports by roughly 2 to 1 that uniforms are something that the parents want or desire, majority of parents at our school.
Thanks, Billy. I guess I'm going to add just a little bit. I've been listening throughout the community, and I've gotten several phone calls, and it is leaning more towards the support than not. And in fact, bringing up the fact that they'd like to see it universal across the elementaries. So I'm hearing a lot of good things. I have heard a couple people that have not wanted it, but I have to say that the majority of the people that have phoned me or emailed me have basically said that they were in support of this and hope that we would continue to do these kind of things throughout the district. So, any other discussion? Ted?
And I think it fits in well with what we've done overall. It's piloting projects at different schools and testing the waters, seeing how it works. And uniforms have seemed to work very well at Columbia Academy, so it seems reasonable to test the water in the elementary. And I just want to thank the parents for coming forward, and that's fantastic to have that input. That's a very healthy thing.
Also, I wanted to add that this is not just a discussion that's happened here tonight. We've been having numerous discussions with Valley View regarding this issue and what they've been looking at and how they've been developing in the timelines. So this isn't just tonight that we're just making this decision. So it has been at work sessions. So other discussion? Seeing none, I'll read the resolution. Resolution approving uniforms for Valley View Elementary School. Whereas Valley View parents and staff have requested a school uniform procedure be implemented starting the 2013-14 school year. Whereas attire can help to communicate the importance of daily focus and effort at school. Whereas attire can help to build school pride and a positive school climate. And whereas a positive image is essential to the success of our students and our school. Now therefore be it resolved that Columbia Heights Independent School District 13 will establish a mandatory wearing of uniforms at Valley View Elementary School beginning 2013-14. Can you please call the roll?
Lori?
Aye.
Ted?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Missy?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Laura? Aye.
That resolution has passed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is discontinuance of positions and programs resolution. Presenter is Lindsay Bennett, Director of Human Resources, Bill Holmgren, Director of Finance and Operations.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Superintendent Kelly, Bill and I were here last week at the work session to discuss this resolution, and nothing's changed to it since we discussed it last week. So tonight we're here to have the board approve the resolution directing the superintendent and administration to consider the discontinuance of programs and positions to effectuate economies in the school district and reduce expenditures as necessary.
I'll entertain a motion on the floor.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Scott, seconded by Laura. Discussion. I just want to say that this is something we do every year. We did have a discussion at the work session, the last work session, regarding this. So just so the community knows that we are talking about these things and it has been discussed. Further discussion? Go ahead.
I just want to say I believe we start the reason we bring it forward at this time is to start the process. So it's kind of an annual thing based on the requirements that we have as a district for personnel. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
So this is the time to do it, and not that we don't always look for economies of scale and efficiencies, but this is sort of the formal start of that.
Further discussion? Seeing none, I'll read the resolution. Resolution directing the administration to make recommendations for reductions in programs and positions and reasons therefore, whereas there may be a reduction in school finances and whereas the reduction in expenditures and school finances may include discontinuance of positions and discontinuance or curtail of programs, and whereas a determination must be made as to which teachers' contracts and programs must be terminated and not renewed, and which teachers may be planned an unrequested leave of absence without pay or fringe benefit in affecting discontinuance of positions and programs. Now therefore be it resolved that the School Board of Independent School District 13, Columbia Heights hereby directs the Superintendent of Schools and Administration to consider the discontinuance of programs or positions to effectuate economies in the school district, reduce expenditures as necessary, and as a result of reduction in school finances, make recommendations to the school board for the discontinuance of programs, curtailment of programs, discontinuance of positions, or curtailment of positions. The motion for the adoption of foregoing resolution was, a motion was from Scott, duly seconded by Laura, and if you would please call roll.
John?
Aye.
Missy?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Ted?
Aye.
Lori?
Aye.
Laura? Aye.
That resolution has passed. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is transportation legal notice. Bill Holmgren, Director of Finance and Operations.
Madam Chair, Directors of the School Board, Superintendent Kathy Kelly. As you know, over the last few months, we've had several different discussions on transportation and some of the issues that we've had with our transportation this year. I'm here tonight to ask you to give me authority to publish written notice to ask for new quotes for transportation services for next school year.
All right, I'll entertain a motion on the floor.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, who-
Laura.
Laura, okay. There is a motion by Laura, seconded by Scott. Discussion, please. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion is carried. Next on the agenda is West Metro Education Program recommended changes to the joint exercise of powers agreement. I'll turn that over to Superintendent Kelly.
Thank you, Madam Chair. What you see before you is something we've been discussing and talking about both at work study and throughout the past few meetings, and that is really part of this, the agreement with Minneapolis, in that they wanted to have a 6-month notice. It means a change in the bylaws if people want out of the organization. So therefore, to be fair to all districts, it was recommended by the Joint Powers Board that it be a minimum of 6 months for every district. And so what we have before us tonight is a motion to allow members to withdraw from WEMET by providing a minimum of 6 months' notice.
I'll entertain a motion on the floor.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Scott, seconded by Laura. Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion is carried. Last on the agenda is board chair election. As you noticed from the organizational meeting, we had 2 people running for school, the chair, Ted Landwehr and myself. And I will open it up if you want to say something, or we can just go ahead with the vote.
Sure. I just want to point out that, you know, it struck me at, when we were at the Minnesota School Board Association conference that, you know, they, like many organizations, regularly switch chairs every 2 years, I believe they do. And it just is common sense that there is a regular schedule of switching chairs, so that you don't have an entrenched type situation where the same chair stays chair for many years. So I would just encourage us to follow that lead. And you know, I've been on many organizations that follow the same policy. So that's what I'm standing up for tonight.
All right. You want to call roll?
Lori?
Landwehr.
Ed?
Landwehr.
Scott?
Lee.
Missy?
Lee.
John?
Lee.
Laura? Landwehr.
3-3. All right. Next is board topics. Anybody got anything for board topics? I forgot to bring up something, and I'm going to bring it forward to you. At the MSBA, they had a vendor booth for the Army, and they have a site that are giving to schools free prepping of ACT. It's a $500 value, and I have the documents and stuff at home. I would like to bring it forward to you. But, I mean, it was brought up even at the MSBA board, so it was really, you know, something that touched a lot of people. So, especially in our district, if for $500 and they can be prepped for free, I think that's pretty. So I will bring that forward to you.
Certainly. Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else got anything for board topic?
Missy, did we talk about the fact that our edible garden was actually at the conference as well?
Oh, no, we didn't. Go ahead.
I just think it was noteworthy that they were invited there to present, and it sounds like, Kristen was saying that they're actually going to be a part of something larger in a study.
I can speak to that. It's been, the edible garden has been asked by the University of Minnesota to be a part of a study on what are effective programs, and I don't know if they're doing it regionally or nationally, but both Director Stunkel and myself are very, very pleased to be included, because it's a comparison so we can improve, and it also helps other people as they're starting to see what were the key indicators of success. So that'll be going on, and it was very, very nice to see the booth and all the posters out there. And for those of you new to the community, it's currently kind of iced over, but spring, summer, and fall, it's a thing to behold.
Go ahead, Ted.
Yeah, speaking of the ACT, one of the ideas that I took away from the conference, is from the Aiken district is that they actually tie student achievement to ACT scores, which, you know, in trying to get students to be college and career ready makes a lot of sense. So something we might want to look at.
If I might respond, we're already thinking about doing that. That's one of the reasons why we're doing Plan and Explore. And we're trying to benchmark back by third grade, what that might look like. So it's a process that's going on this year and probably into next. But so it really is taking that pre through 14 look at our kids' career and college ready. And that's also putting my plug in again why it's so important to have early learning, because if they have to be starting to looking at in third grade on what their career and college expectations might be, they need to be literate and numeric.
Anything else for board topic?
Well, one of the seminar that I had gone to, they were actually saying that they are going to be able to get you some information at the district level. So I don't know what you were talking about. So do you have that information? I do have a contact number. We can email them for being able to get some of the data statistics with regards to following that learning through. Because but they can't, right now you can just get state data, but you have to contact them personally for the district data.
I think that if you wanted to chat with me afterwards, I'll talk to Director Burkus, who's out in the hall. And we'll put something in the superintendent's update on that.
Anything else on board topics? Seeing none, I adjourn this meeting at 8:37.